Over time, I've had the same question come up a lot, and I feel like it's a very important thing to do my part and fill you in on my exact thoughts. This is the conversation I would have with my future kids if they wanted to pursue a career in either art or video or like freelance work, basically the career that I've done in my experience. I went to art school. I did a year and a half, and student loans started to really kind of build up, and I was actually making money after I learned like doing different things. I was making money basically not doing that. So I decided to go on the route of making money versus going further into debt and that whole thing. Note that I wasn't in school to be a photographer or videographer or whatever. I was in school to do 3D animation and stuff like that. Similar, but different. For me, I went to art school because the softwares are so overwhelming, and also they're very expensive, which was covered in the tuition. So more or less, it was like you pay the tuition and then you get the software for free, and then you get the Adobe Creative Master Suite for free, and then more or less you kind of just get instruction on how to do it. And I feel like in that year and a half, I learned it enough to where I could kind of fly on my own and teach myself from there. Now, at the end of high school, everybody's talking about the college that they're going to go to and what they plan on doing and stuff like that. And at that point, you feel like that's the next step, because you're about ready to be kicked out into the real world, and you're like, oh shoot, I don't really know what to do. Here's a secret, nobody knows what they're doing. Going into debt and trying to find a major before you even know what you want to go to school for, if you're just going to school and just because that's what everybody else is doing and that's the next step after high school, and that's traditionally what it has been in the last 30 years. You need to get your degree to get a job. Well, at the end of it all, in our experience, that is not the case, especially in art. For Haley, she graduated with her degree in dietetics, and that's correct, right?
Yes.
Was it nutrition dietetics or just called dietetics?
Dietetics. So like that's an example of you have to go to college.
That's an example of you have to go to college. Like, the things that she learned, there's no way you can possibly teach yourself. It's not a subjective field, it's a fact field. So you...
Just like legally, you have to have your degree.
Well, okay, yeah, and legally you have to have your degree. That was a good example of you have to go to school for it. Now, in the art field, it is all subjective. Nobody cares if you have a degree or not. The main thing is your portfolio. In order to build your portfolio and honestly to learn on just really the nature of photography or videography in general, from here on out I'm just gonna say photography because it just makes it a lot easier. If you're going to school for art, more or less what it is it's a comfort system of people kind of patting you on the back and holding your hand through the time in your life in which you're supposed to be in college. To be a photographer in the real world and a freelance photographer and work for yourself, I feel like it's more valuable to never go to school and teach yourself how you're basically going to be living the rest of your life. The way that you teach yourself and the way that you're hungry and you're going to conventions, you're contacting people in the field, you're watching YouTube videos, you're learning tips and techniques on post-processing, on shooting, on different types of exposures and metering and all these different things. That feeling is going to be so valuable for you down the road that it's actually more beneficial for you to not go to school. Now, again, this isn't, some people need it. Some people need school. If you're not that driven of a person, photography is probably not the route for you. I'm just gonna say it. Realistically, in my experience, like people who have like a fire in them and a passion for photography, they're basically gonna make it happen one way or another, and failing is just not an option. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who think that you go to school and you get your degree, but really you're behind the eight ball, because once you graduate, nobody's there to hold your hand anymore, and you haven't learned that skill of being hungry and going out and building your portfolio and contacting people, because you have to go out, you have to seek out opportunities and really put yourself out there. And by going to school, you're not doing that. You're basically just following the leader, and then leader leaves, and then you're just like, oh. I feel like it's like that in a lot of different art directions, and there's a lot of different things. I mean, I can make like 1,000 videos and talk for 2 hours about this whole thing, but I want to try to keep this under 10 minutes. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I feel like if you're making good stuff, you're going to be seen, whether it's by someone big or whether it's by someone roughly around the same size as you. It's the same concept as what YouTube has been. You're going to stand out if you're not taking iPhone pictures and you're not like setting up your composition and you're just. It's going to be night and day between someone who knows what they're doing and someone who doesn't, someone who's taught themselves, someone who's experienced it themselves, and there's no comparison. Your stuff's going to be seen by someone that's networking in itself. A lot of college is networking. That is networking in itself. Now with social media and everything else, photography is a social media based thing. So I just don't see the point in a degree. Personally, what I would do if you do have your heart set on going into debt and trying to get a degree, the best way to teach yourself is if you're going to be spending that money one way or another, say you have scholarship money or whatever. I don't know how that works. Sometimes there are like scholarships that come in even if you don't know school. I don't know. One way or another, if you're going to be spending that money, in the last couple years, I've learned the most by going out and shooting. What I would do is just buy a decent camera. Personally, okay, if you're going straight into learning photography and you're maybe still in high school, or maybe you're older and you're out of college and thinking of going back to school and you really want to break into it and you don't know, get a film camera. This camera, the Canon AE1, this is the program version. I highly recommend not getting the program version. Basically, that means it's full auto. I never use it for program because it basically defeats the point. Film will teach you more about photography than anything else. And yeah, people are going to call you a hipster for shooting film, and people are going to think that you think you're better than everybody else because you shoot film. And it's just the stigma that comes with it, and it really sucks, but who cares? You're going to learn. You're going to learn the most from shooting film than anything else, because the reason, it costs a lot of money. You're gonna buy this camera you can get for roughly around $100, maybe even less. But then every roll of film is $5, $5 or $6, and depending on where you get it processed, like the film developed, and if you're getting prints made or if you get a film scanner, it starts to get a little bit pricey. But what that does is it forces you to really think about your shots versus shooting digitally. You have no idea what you're doing, and you're just click, 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 and there's no value to it. And also you're just gonna feel like a lot more connected with your pictures. So what I would recommend doing is getting a camera like this, spending a few bucks that you'd be spending at school to really teach yourself photography the hard way. To just sort of punch yourself in the nuts every time that you're trying to learn. So with that being said, I had something else I wanted to say. And with that, make sure the best way to learn is keep a detailed journal for every single shot. Get a little moleskin notebook. You can get rolls of film that either have 24 or 36 exposures if you're shooting 35mm film. And there's videos on YouTube where you can teach yourself all about this. Keep a little journal and write down your settings of what you shoot, so when you get your exposures back, when you get your film back from being processed, then you'll know exactly what your settings were and what you should have done differently in that situation. It's really a great way to improve your photography overall. And then when it comes down to it, to go full manual when you have a digital beast like this. And in doing that, you're gonna learn how to create a portfolio that is your style. With all these settings, shooting full manual and not going auto, you're gonna learn how to develop your own style, which is key in creating a portfolio or just a page to kind of like shop out to different people to show them what you can do to have them want your photos. For example, like consistency is key. That's one reason why I've came out with the presets on the site, is because that is really the first step in making a portfolio that just makes people's jaws drop. It's having the same colors, it's shooting similar tones, it's shooting similar subjects, things that can kind of go hand in hand. Now for me, for Instagram, it's not as perfect as I want it. That's why I'm sort of putting them on my website, because it's like that's what it is because of what I do. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, that's one of the first steps. Man, I should probably stop there because I have a lot of going forward. To finish it off, back to just not going to school and taking that money and using it to basically invest in yourself. If you want to get anywhere as far as an entrepreneur is working for yourself, anything that you want to do that involves you freelancing or anything, you have to spend money to make money. That's basically what it is. And yes, you're gonna be making mistakes that's gonna cost you money, but in the long run, it's gonna be more valuable, and you're gonna create a more of a style that is in fact your own versus some professor who is preaching that you have to do this, this, this. It's all subjective. There's not really a right way or a wrong way. There's general guidelines that everybody kind of follows because that's just what makes it look good, but then you can kind of riff off of that and develop your own style. So I would take whatever you're gonna spend on school and go out there and do something. I would travel. I would go on a bunch of like short, cheap trips, and then maybe 2 or 3 big trips, maybe like out of the country, see somewhere new, and just being inspired by different places. And because you're going to be wanting to take pictures anyways, working on your composition, and then you're gonna get back and you're gonna see all your photos, and you'll start to like see a trend or things that you're kind of doing subconsciously without thinking while you're shooting your photos. And you'll be able to kind of build off of there, because I see pictures that I've taken in the past where some people like them and I absolutely hate. I mean, you're constantly learning in this field, and I don't feel like you need school. All right, I feel like that was good. What? Someone has your credit card number. Oh shoot.